did you do that?
I'm Supergirl.
You're who now?
To me, Supergirl is the most valuable character DC has. She fulfills so many different stories and roles.
I have said for a long, long time that Supergirl is more of a hero than Superman.
Supergirl stands for hope, but she stands for hope in the face of survival.
She gets her powers from the yellow sun, but I also felt like she was kind of the embodiment of sunshine. And that was what originally drew me to the role.
There's no question putting on that Supergirl costume makes you feel that part.
She blazed her own trail in history, in the comics, and in animation.
It takes internal strength to prove yourself. And she did it. I mean, she can really kick some ass.
Krypton was a beautiful place.
No matter where she's at or how hurt she is, she will always have hope, compassion, and love for all.
A lot of sidekicks sort of start out as younger, smaller carbon copies of the more powerful, well-known characters that they are sidekicks to. Yes, that might be the starting point, but what's interesting to me is how do these characters break out and define themselves? And I think that is something that worked really well with Supergirl, this idea of a character that has the powers of Superman, but with a different personality, a different point of view.
In the 1950s, new Superman editor Mort Weisinger wanted to shake things up with Superman a little bit after 25 years of being DC's primary hero. There was still a sense that there wasn't as much innovative around him. So the goal was to create new things.
Supergirl is introduced in one of the best-selling comics in America.
Supergirl's origins started in Action Comics 252. The people of Argo City had survived Krypton's destruction. They had been living in space. They suddenly started getting kryptonite poisoning. So her parents put her on a similar ship to Superman's and sent her to Earth to save her life.
I just remember the classic cover of Supergirl coming out of her rocket and Superman backwards going, "Great Krypton, who are you?" And she's like, "I'm your cousin."
He was very unsure of her at first, and his first move was not to embrace her and show her to the world. And so Supergirl, for the first few years of her existence, all of her stories were based in Midvale Orphanage, where basically she sat and waited for Superman's call. And anytime he got in a bad enough jam, he would send out the signal and summon his secret weapon, who was Supergirl. And she would fly in like the Kryptonian cavalry and kick the snot out of anybody that was giving Superman trouble. That went on for years.
There weren't a lot of prominent female superheroes, certainly not a lot of young female superheroes, and so the fan base reacted positively to this notion that it's not just limited to Superman. If you're a female reader, I can also be a Kryptonian super character.
At the beginning, she was cheery. There was an excitement to her. She really liked being Supergirl.
The beauty of Supergirl is she's not competing with Superman. Like, sidekicks often compete with their mentors. Really what sets her apart is a feeling of connection to the human race that not even Superman has.
Superman does not remember Krypton. He was a baby. He grew up here. He feels like he's more human than he does a Kryptonian. Supergirl had a whole life. Her childhood was on Krypton. So she knows what it was like. She has people she lost. She has a world she lost.
That instills in her a love for humanity and a need to protect humanity that is as strong as Superman's, but different.
Warner Brothers began to develop a Supergirl movie in the 80s as a way of capitalizing on the enthusiasm for the Chris Reeve cycle of Superman movies and broadening it out.
You've had your fun, Selina. The game is finished.
It's an interesting idea of being a role model at such a young age. I think I was so hungry to be taken seriously, so it was as serious as if I was getting cast in Romeo and Juliet or something with gravitas.
Leave this place and do no harm.
In the early 1980s, the image of Supergirl was, for lack of a better word, erring more on this two-dimensional side, kind of this virtuous sweetness, able to do good in the world. And then as we've seen it develop, each one, there's more depth and edges, and I think that's very good news for a lot of reasons.
The idea behind Crisis on Infinite Earths was DC felt that the universe had almost become too complicated with all these different Earths. And so part of the thinking was, is there a way we can simplify the mythology and also simplify the pantheon of characters so that we have one character that's a Kryptonian with superpowers, one character that runs fast. So some of the marquee foundational characters of the DC universe were killed off in that series, and Supergirl's one of them.
The drama of Supergirl's death was exciting, in part because she wasn't the one you would assume to have that level of courage. Supergirl had much quieter stories, and suddenly she was being thrust into this enormously dramatic moment.
There's an early page where Supergirl and Batgirl, they were sitting on a roof and they have a talk, and it's Supergirl saying, if I were to die tomorrow, I knew I'd do the right thing. To me, that's the most important page in all 12 issues of Crisis, because it says exactly what a hero is.
Supergirl joins in this huge battle against the Anti-Monitor, the most powerful DC villain at that point ever, and she wipes the floor with him. Superman is being attacked. She pauses to try and help Superman, and Anti-Monitor takes advantage of that moment, and he kills her.
Supergirl's sacrifice reveals so much about her character. She's not willing to put her life on the line for just one universe. She's saving the entire multiverse. She's saving trillions of human beings. And that gave weight to what she did.
For most Supergirl fans, Kara's sacrifice in Crisis is the most important defining moment in her character history.
Supergirl had to be the heart of Crisis. Supergirl's death had to be something that there was no alternative. She knew she was going to have to do something to save the world, and she did it.
The cover to Crisis on Infinite Earths #7 is one of the most iconic covers in DC history. Superman holding Supergirl, tears in his eyes. That cover was an earthquake in the middle of the 1980s.
If you're a comics fan and you've done it long enough, you know at some point the character's going to return. So as a writer and a creator, that becomes sort of the, okay, how's this going to work?
One of the interesting things about Supergirl, when we brought her back into Superman the Animated Series, at that time in the comics, she was off limits. They had rebooted Superman again in the comics, and the official DC canon at that time was that there were no other Kryptonians besides Superman. So then we came up with a workaround where she's not technically from Krypton, she's from their sister planet, Argo.
I think she's one of the strongest superheroes there is, especially for little girls to break through the stereotypes that just because you're a girl, you're not limited to that. She broke the mold.
In the comics, she's very sweet, she's very pure, she's very innocent, but we wanted her to give her a little bit more spunk. We just wanted her to have an attitude, and we wanted her to kind of rebel against Superman a little bit.
Now what I do wrong. I loved portraying her feistiness and her spunky personality.
And then the visual we came up with, people really responded to the look, so much so that the next time they rebooted the character again, suddenly that became her default look in the comics.
I just love the original concept, which is that she was Superman's cousin. So there was an opportunity to tell that story, but to tell it with a more modern twist.
Originally, they were born at the same time. In the retelling, she was already a teenager when Superman was an infant. She looked after him. And when she was rocketed to Earth, she got caught in a time warp, stuck there for years. She didn't show up until Superman was grown up, and she's still a teenager. But she still feels protective of her cousin.
Because she had been in one sort of stasis for 18 years, just absorbing solar energy, she was in fact more powerful than he was, which was something that she never had been.
To me, she kind of resonated as like this harder edge version of Supergirl. There's a lot more room to explore there. This idea that not every Kryptonian has to be good and altruistic.
I had always thought that the darkness inside Kara was a way to differentiate her from this wholesome character that we had known from the 50s and 60s.
And I like the fact that you can have a character maybe resonates more with younger readers. It's just an incredible way to playing foils against one another and basically saying, yes, they have the same power set, but they're different people, they appeal to different readers, and we could do different types of stories with it.
It's been a long time, Kal-El. I missed you.
I missed you too.
On Smallville, what I loved about their version of her was that she was defiant. She spoke her truth. She actually had more powers than Clark did on our show. She was brought there to teach him his powers and to put him in his place, which I thought was really interesting and a unique angle for the show to go at with her.
You can't focus. You are not ready.
We didn't have other female superheroes at the time. Now there are so many shows, and I had women who would come up to me and cry and say, thank you for representing us. I had little girls saying, can you really fly? I want to be like you. I just had goosebumps, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm Supergirl.
On your marks.
Get set.
Go.
The Greg Berlanti shows blew us all away because he was actually doing the comics, and Melissa's Supergirl was she was like spot on.
I don't think at the time that significance landed on me, that we were the first female-driven superhero show on network television since Linda Carter played Wonder Woman. Probably because the weight of that was overwhelming. And because I knew she was going to be a role model to young girls. I think what defines Supergirl is all in her credo. Superman has truth, justice, and the American way. Hope, help, and compassion for all is Supergirl's motto.
You know Supergirl? I'm friends with all the nice girls.
And that's something that just stuck with me. I did take a lot of directive from Chris Reeve and the way he played Clark Kent. Part of the journey of the Supergirl that I played was really finding herself, and I'm really happy with the way that we kind of closed the chapter on my Supergirl, that she found a way to be peaceful and content with both sides of her life.
Kara Zor-El, we've been waiting for you.
I immediately thought it was a great idea to bring Supergirl to The Flash because she hasn't had a cinematic version for a while.
She's a character who in the comics is normally a ray of sunshine, but what was fun is we got to kind of turn it on its head and do a different take on the character. Because this Kara is not sweetness and light, certainly not in the beginning. This Kara's been stuck in a bunker, she's been poked and prodded, and she's angry. And it's kind of fun to see a very different version of Supergirl.
One of the greatest things that this movie has, and it's something that is very much tied to the concept of multiverse, which is including characters that are not what you would expect. They don't come in the shape and form that you would think.
The last son of Krypton, I was sent to protect him.
I think she's a very complex hero in like a very beautiful way. We were very aligned in how human we wanted her to be because she is alien, but she's experiencing everything 10 times more than everybody else. 10 times the pressure, 10 times the pain, 10 times the responsibility, 10 times the loneliness.
It's a character that is somehow subverted, bringing a Supergirl that doesn't look like the Supergirl that everyone knows. You know, the blonde, blue-eyed girl that everyone expects.
You are the one, Kara Zor-El.
What did you do to Kal-El?
Your sacrifice that will allow Krypton to live again.
What did you do? She's not this perfect hero. She's an alien in all of the ways. She has no home. There's a lot of pain and suffering that she goes through after she even lost her parents and her planet. And I think everyone can relate to a loss and to heartbreak.
Are you good? Do you feel strong yet? Yeah, that seems strong.
Just as every Supergirl story is one of self-discovery, the character has really discovered herself across the last 60 years.
Because of her power, you can do a lot of emotional stories and making her even a stronger character.
She is one of the most powerful, one of the most emotional, and she'll be here forever.
I think what's made her popular is the fact that she's become a symbol of female empowerment.
In today's world where young women need heroes to look up to, that they can empathize with, that they can identify with, they can find that in Supergirl.
She represents strength. She represents the every girl who doesn't have it together. She represents a woman who's chosen to blaze her own path and tell her own story.
Rising above and being able to see the light and the power that you have within you. That's her, I think.
She is the one that will always make people believe that they can. And she has the strength to show the world that they're all capable of that strength within themselves, and that hope and love and compassion really are all the things that will save the world.